Captain Jake Morrison stared at the red folder on his desk. The words Class X Forbidden were stamped across the front in bold letters. He had never seen a Class X file before. In his 15 years with the Terran Colonial Authority, he had dealt with dangerous worlds, hostile aliens, and impossible missions. But nothing had ever carried this level of warning. Admiral Helen Brooks sat across from him in the small briefing room aboard the space station. Her face was serious as she pushed the folder toward him. "Open it, Jake. But remember, once you see what's inside, you can't walk away from this mission." Jake opened the folder. The first page showed a planet covered in swirling storms. Lightning, bigger than most moons, danced across its surface. The planet looked angry, like it was fighting against space itself. The name at the top read, Zarian 7. 17 expeditions? Admiral Brooks said quietly. 17 different alien species have tried to study this world. None came back. Not even a single survivor or message. Jake flipped through the pages. Each one showed failed mission reports from different alien races. The Zelathi had sent their best energy manipulators. The Crouton had used their strongest warriors. The Mentari had brought their most powerful mind readers. All had vanished without a trace. Why hasn't the Galactic Confederation just left it? Alone? Jake asked. Brooks pointed to a mineral chart in the file. Quantum crystals. The planet has the largest deposit in the known galaxy. Without those crystals, our new faster-than-light engines won't work. We need them, Jake. Humanity's expansion into the outer systems depends on it. Jake studied the readings from the planet's surface. The numbers made no sense. Gravity that changed from crushing weight to 0 in seconds. Storms that could melt. Steel with their lightning. Ground that shifted between ice, lava, and toxic swamp faster than a person could run. The place seemed designed to kill anything that landed on it. The other species were more advanced than us, Jake said. If they couldn't handle it, what makes you think we can? Brooks smiled grimly. Because humans are different. We don't give up when things get hard. We adapt. We find ways around problems that others can't solve. That's what makes us human. Jake closed the file. He thought about his crew aboard the UES Discovery. They were good people, the best he had ever worked with. Did he have the right to ask them to risk their lives on a mission that had killed so many others? "I need to see the crew files," he said finally. Brooks handed him another folder. "I already picked your team. These are the people who can handle Zarian 7. The first file belonged to Dr. Lisa Carter. She was 32 years old and had spent most of her career studying life in extreme environments. She had worked on ice planets where the cold could freeze a person solid in minutes. She had studied creatures that lived in the hearts of active volcanoes. If anyone could understand the biology of a Deathworld, it was her Lieutenant Ryan Davis. Was next. A young pilot had a reputation for flying ships in conditions that should have been impossible. He had landed shuttles during meteor storms and navigated through gravitational anomalies that twisted space itself. Other pilots called him crazy. Jake called him perfect for this mission. Chief Engineer Bobby Martinez had kept ships running. When everyone else said they were dead, he could fix anything with spare parts and creativity. He had once kept a ship's engines working with nothing but scrap metal and determination. If the Discovery ran into trouble on Zarian 7, Martinez would find a way to keep them alive. Commander Kate Williams was the team's tactical officer. She had fought in 3 different wars and had survived battles that killed most of her units. She thought like a soldier, but planned like a scientist. Her job would be to keep everyone alive when the planet tried to kill them. "They don't know about the mission yet," Brooks said. "You need to brief them and get their agreement. This has to be voluntary." Jake looked at the crew files again. These people had families, friends, lives to live. But he also knew they were explorers at heart. They had joined the colonial authority to push the boundaries of human knowledge. This mission was exactly what they had trained for. "When do we leave?" Jake asked. 2 weeks. That gives you time to prepare and modify the Discovery for extreme conditions. The ship will need upgrades to survive what's waiting out there. Jake stood up and gathered the files. "I'll need full access to the research data from the failed expeditions. Every sensor reading, every piece of equipment they left behind, everything. Already arranged. The alien governments have shared everything they have. They want this planet studied as much as we do. Some of their best people died trying to catalog Zarian 7. As Jake walked toward the door, Brooks called out to him. "Jake, there's one more thing. The planet readings have been getting worse over the past few months. Whatever is happening down there, it's getting more dangerous. We may be running out of time." Jake nodded and left the briefing room. He walked through the corridors of the space station, thinking about what lay ahead. In 2 weeks, he would be leading his crew toward a world that had defeated every other species that tried to study it. The logical part of his mind said it was suicide. But another part of him, the part that made him human, was already planning how to succeed where others had failed. He reached the docking bay where the Discovery waited. The ship looked small compared to the massive alien vessels docked nearby. But it was human-built, designed by people who understood that sometimes the best solution wasn't the most advanced one. Sometimes the best solution was the one that refused to quit. Jake smiled as he boarded his ship. Zarian 7 had never faced humans before. It was about to learn what that meant. 2 weeks later, the UE's Discovery dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zarian system. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the view screen as the planet came into view. Even from millions of miles away, Zarian 7 looked wrong. The planet's surface shifted colors like a broken computer screen, cycling through different patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Sensors are going crazy, Captain," Lieutenant Ryan Davis reported from the pilot station. "I'm getting readings that don't make sense. The planet's gravity is pulling in 6 different directions at once." Dr. Lisa Carter looked up from her science station. "The atmospheric composition keeps changing too. 1 second it's showing oxygen and nitrogen, the next it's pure methane. Then it switches to something that shouldn't exist." Chief Engineer Bobby Martinez shook his head as he watched his instruments. "The electromagnetic readings are off the charts. This thing is putting out more energy than a small star, but it's not hot enough to do that." Commander Kate Williams studied the tactical display. "I count 7 different types of energy weapons firing from the surface, but they're not aimed at anything. It's like the planet is shooting at ghosts." Jake walked closer to the main screen. The planet was beautiful in a terrible way. Storms the size of continents danced across its surface, flashing with lightning that came in colors he had never seen before. Mountain ranges rose and fell like waves on an ocean. Entire continents seemed to appear and disappear as he watched. "Take us into orbit," Jake ordered, slow and careful. Davis worked the controls with steady hands. The Discovery moved forward, but every few seconds the ship shuddered as gravitational waves hit them. The normal laws of physics seemed to bend. Around Zarian 7, creating pockets of space where up became down and time moved at different speeds. "Hull stress is increasing," Martinez reported, "but it's not constant. The pressure comes in waves, like the planet is breathing." Carter's eyes were wide as she read her instruments. "Captain, I'm detecting life signs down there. Lots of them, but they're not like anything in our databases. Some of them are showing up as pure energy. Others seem to exist in multiple dimensions at once." "Any signs of the previous expeditions?" Jake asked. Williams checked her scans. "I'm picking up metal signatures that match alien ship designs. But they're scattered across the entire planet. Whatever happened to those expeditions, their ships were torn apart. The Discovery settled into a high orbit, constantly adjusting its position, as Zarian 7's gravity tried to pull it in different directions. Jake called his senior staff to the briefing room. The 4 officers sat around the table, each looking at data that challenged everything they knew about planetary science. "Recommendations?" Jake asked. "We should leave," Martinez said bluntly. "This planet violates half the laws of physics. Our equipment wasn't designed to work in conditions like this. The scientific value is incredible," Carter argued. "We're looking at phenomena that could revolutionize our understanding of biology, physics, and dimensional theory. We can't just walk away." Williams spread out tactical maps on the table. "If we go down there, we need to assume everything will try to kill us." The wreckage patterns suggest the other expeditions were attacked by multiple threats simultaneously. Davis looked at the atmospheric readings. "I can get us down to the surface, but I can't guarantee I can get us back up again. The atmospheric conditions change faster than our sensors can track them." Jake studied the faces of his crew. They were scared, but they were also excited. This was the kind of discovery that explorers dreamed about. "The quantum crystals are our priority. We need those crystals to power humanity's expansion, but we're not going down there blind." He pointed to a section of the planet that seemed slightly more stable than the rest. "We'll start with an unmanned probe. If it survives for more than an hour, we'll consider a manned landing." Martinez worked through the night to modify one of their survey probes. He added extra shielding, backup power systems, and emergency transmitters. The probe was designed to survive almost anything, but as he watched the readings from Zarian 7, he wondered if it would be enough. The next morning, they launched the probe toward the planet's surface. For the first few minutes, everything went normally. The probe transmitted clear images of strange crystal formations that glowed with their own light. These were the quantum crystals they needed, scattered across the landscape like fallen stars. Then, the planet noticed the probe. The ground beneath the small device began to shake. Creatures that looked like living lightning emerged from caves and attacked the probe with focused energy beams. The probe's shields held for a few seconds, then failed completely. But instead of being destroyed, the probe was absorbed into the ground itself, as if the planet had decided to study it. "Did you see that?" Carter asked, replaying the final moments of the probe's transmission. "The planet didn't just attack our probe. It captured it. Something down there is intelligent." Williams enhanced the tactical display. "Look at the attack pattern. Those creatures coordinated their assault. They waited until the probe was in the perfect position, then struck from multiple angles simultaneously." Jake made his decision. "We're going down. Full landing party. If this planet is intelligent, we need to understand what we're dealing with." "Captain," Davis said quietly, 17 other expeditions thought the same thing. None of them came back. "Then we'll be first," Jake replied. "Prep the shuttle. We leave in 1 hour." The shuttle bay was busy as the crew prepared for landing. Martinez had modified their equipment to handle the extreme conditions. Carter packed sensors that could analyze impossible life forms. Williams loaded weapons that could fight enemies existing in multiple dimensions. Davis ran through pre-flight checks on a shuttle that had been reinforced beyond normal specifications. As they prepared to launch, Jake received a message from Admiral Brooks. The text was simple: 17 expeditions failed. Don't be the 18th? Jake deleted the message and climbed into the shuttle. Through the viewport, Zarian 7 filled the entire view, its surface writhing with activity. Lightning storms battled each other across continents. Mountain ranges grew and crumbled in minutes. The very air around the planet seemed alive with hostile energy. "Everyone ready?" Jake asked over the comm system. His crew responded with calm professionalism, but he could hear the tension in their voices. They were about to land on a world that had killed some of the most advanced beings in the galaxy. They were flying a shuttle into conditions that should have been impossible to survive. Davis started the engines. "Here we go, Captain. Next stop, the most dangerous place in the galaxy." The shuttle detached from the Discovery and began its descent toward Zirion 7. Within seconds, the calm of space was replaced by chaos as they entered the planet's atmosphere. Gravity pulled them in different directions every few seconds. Lightning struck their shields with the force of nuclear explosions. The very air around them seemed to fight against their passage. But somehow, Avis kept them flying. He treated the impossible conditions like a puzzle to be solved, rather than a barrier to overcome. When gravity tried to crush them, he used the pressure to gain speed. When lightning threatened to overload their systems, he flew through the electrical storms like they were navigation beacons. "I can see the surface," he reported as they broke through the lowest cloud layer. "And it's not what we expected." Below them stretched a landscape that defied description. Crystal formations, the size of buildings, grew from ground that shifted between ice, lava, and something that looked like liquid starlight. Creatures made of pure energy danced between the crystals, while others that seemed to be part machine and part living tissue burrowed through earth that changed composition every few seconds. "There," Carter pointed to a relatively stable area, near a cluster of quantum crystals. "Set us down there." As the shuttle touched the surface of Zirion 7, Jake felt the weight of history. 17 expeditions had failed on this world, but humans had never tried to catalog it before. The planet was about to learn what made humanity different from every other species in the galaxy. The shuttle landed with a heavy thud on what appeared to be solid ground. Within seconds, the surface beneath them began to shift and bubble like thick soup. Jake Morrison felt his stomach drop as the landing gear sank into earth that had been solid moments before. "Engines ready for immediate takeoff," Lieutenant Ryan Davis announced, his hands dancing over the controls. "This ground won't hold us for long." Dr. Lisa Carter was already scanning the area outside. "The quantum crystals are 50 meters from our position, but I'm reading massive life signs moving toward us underground." Chief Engineer Bobby Martinez checked his equipment readings. "The electromagnetic field here is scrambling half our gear. My tools are showing impossible readings. Gravity is pulling down, up, and sideways all at the same time." Commander Kate Williams studied the tactical display with growing concern. "Movement on all sides. Whatever lives here, it knows we've arrived." Jake looked out the shuttle's viewport at the alien landscape. The quantum crystals they needed glowed with blue-white light, scattered across the ground like fallen pieces of sky. But between the shuttle and the crystals, the ground rippled with movement. Shapes that defied description moved beneath the surface, creating waves in the solid earth. "Sealed suits," Jake ordered. "Full environmental protection. We don't know what the air will do to us." The crew put on their protective gear, designed to keep them alive in the harshest conditions. The suits were built to handle extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres, and radiation that could kill in seconds. But as they prepared to leave the shuttle, each of them wondered if their protection would be enough. Jake opened the shuttle door and stepped onto the surface of Zirion 7. His boots touched ground that felt solid, but looked like it was made of flowing water. The air around him shimmered with colors that had no names, and the sky above changed from blue to red to black every few seconds. "Stay close," he told his team. "We collect samples and get out. No unnecessary risks." They moved toward the nearest cluster of quantum crystals, but the ground fought them with every step. What looked like solid earth would suddenly become deep mud, forcing them to change direction. Rocks that seemed stable would crumble into dust when touched. The planet itself seemed determined to slow their progress. Carter knelt beside a small crystal formation and began taking readings. These crystals are incredible. They're generating power levels that should be impossible for their size. But there's something else. They're connected to each other somehow, forming a network across the entire planet. As she worked, Martinez noticed something moving in the ground beneath them. "Captain, we've got company. Something big is coming up from below." The earth split open 20 meters away, and a creature emerged that challenged everything they knew about biology. It was part plant, part machine, and part pure energy. Tentacles made of living lightning reached toward them while mechanical arms dug through the ground with impossible speed. Williams raised her weapon, but the creature moved faster than she could aim. It struck at Carter with a beam of energy that should have killed her instantly. Instead, Carter dove to the side, rolled behind a crystal formation, and kept working on her samples. "It's not trying to kill us," Carter called out. "It's testing us. Look at the attack pattern." Jake watched as the creature continued its assault. The energy beams were powerful enough to melt steel, but they always missed the humans by inches. The mechanical arms could have crushed them easily, but instead they created barriers that forced the team to move in specific directions. "It's hurting us," Williams realized, "pushing us toward something." Martinez was busy keeping their equipment running despite the electromagnetic interference. "Whatever this thing is, it's smart. It's adapting its attacks based on how we respond." More creatures began emerging from the ground. Each one was different, as if the planet was trying different approaches to deal with the humans. Some were made of living rock that could change shape at will. Others were composed of gases that burned with cold fire. A few seemed to exist partially in other dimensions, appearing and disappearing as they moved. But something strange was happening. The creatures that had emerged first were becoming less aggressive. They seemed confused by the humans' responses to their attacks. Where other species might have used energy weapons or psychic powers, the humans simply adapted their tactics and kept working. "Ezelathi expedition records," Carter said suddenly, pulling up data on her portable scanner. "They were energy-based beings. These creatures are designed to drain energy from their targets, but were not using energy weapons." Jake understood immediately. It's not random. These creatures are specifically designed to counter the abilities of different alien species. But humans don't fit the pattern. A new creature emerged from the crystal formations ahead of them. This one was massive, easily 3 times the size of their shuttle. Its body was covered with armor that shifted between different materials, adapting to threats that weren't there. Weapons that could destroy starships extended from its limbs, but they seemed unsure of what to target. "The Crouton were heavily armored," Williams observed. "This thing is designed to break through physical defenses. But our suits aren't really armor. They're just environmental protection." The massive creature approached them slowly, its weapons charging and discharging without firing. It seemed to be running through a checklist of attack patterns, but none of them matched what it was seeing from the humans. Martinez had a breakthrough while the creature was distracted. "Captain, I'm getting readings from inside the crystals. There's technology in there. Ancient technology. These aren't natural formations." Carter looked up from her samples. "The crystals aren't just connected to each other. They're connected to the creatures, to the ground, to everything on this planet. It's all one system." As if responding to her words, the landscape around them began to shift more rapidly. The ground rose and fell like ocean waves. New creatures emerged from every direction, but instead of attacking, they seemed to be studying the humans with the same intensity that the humans were studying them. "They're learning," Jake realized. Each attack teaches them something about us, but we're not responding the way they expect. A new type of creature appeared, one that seemed to be made of pure thought. It reached out with invisible tendrils that should have invaded their minds and driven them insane. The Mentari expedition records showed that psychic attacks had been the downfall of that species, but the humans simply kept working. The psychic creature's attacks slid off their minds like water off glass. Human brains evolved for creativity and problem-solving rather than psychic sensitivity proved remarkably resistant to mental manipulation. It's getting frustrated, Carter observed as the psychic creature's attacks became more frantic. All of them are. They're designed to exploit specific weaknesses, but humans have too many different strengths. Williams had been counting the creatures surrounding them. We're outnumbered 50-1, but they're not coordinating anymore. Each species of creature is trying its own approach. Martinez finished his analysis of the crystal network. Captain, you need to see this. The crystals aren't just connected to the creatures. They're controlling them. This entire planet is one massive computer system. Jake looked at the data Martinez was showing him. The quantum crystals formed a network that extended deep into the planet's core. Every creature, every environmental hazard, every impossible phenomenon was connected to this system. It's a test, he said quietly. The whole planet is designed to test different species, but the test is failing because we don't fit the parameters. As if hearing his words, the planet itself seemed to pause. The constant shifting of the ground slowed. The creatures stopped their attacks and stood motionless. The air became still for the first time since they had landed, then the ground beneath. Their feet began to glow with the same blue-white light as the crystals. Lines of energy connected every creature, every rock, every grain of sand. The humans found themselves standing in the center of a vast network that extended beyond their ability to see. "Welcome to the testing ground," a voice said inside there. Heads, it wasn't telepathy. It was the planet itself, speaking through the crystal network. "You are the first species to break our protocols. We must adapt our evaluation methods." Jake looked at his team. They had come to collect quantum crystals and catalog a dangerous world. Instead, they had discovered something far more significant. They had found a planet-sized intelligence that had been testing species for millions of years. And for the first time in its existence, the test was failing. The voice in their heads spoke again, but this time it sounded uncertain. "Your species designation is unknown. Your behavioral patterns do not match our database. Please identify your primary evolutionary advantage." Captain Jake Morrison looked at his team, then spoke aloud to the planet. "We're humans, and we don't have just one advantage. We adapt." The ground beneath them pulsed with energy as the planetary intelligence processed this information. Around them, the creatures that had been attacking moments before stood frozen, as if waiting for new instructions that weren't coming. Dr. Lisa Carter was studying her readings with growing excitement. "Captain, this changes everything. The planet isn't hostile. It's a testing facility. Every challenge we've faced was designed to evaluate species for some kind of advancement." Chief Engineer Bobby Martinez was deep in the crystal network's data streams. "The technology here is incredible. These crystals can manipulate matter at the quantum level. They can create energy from nothing, alter gravity, even bend space-time." Commander Kate Williams kept her weapons ready despite the temporary calm. "But something's wrong with the system. Look at the creatures. They're not moving naturally anymore. They're stuck in loops, trying to run programs that don't work on us." Lieutenant Ryan Davis was monitoring their shuttle systems from his portable control unit. "The atmospheric conditions are stabilizing around us. It's like the planet is trying to create an environment we can survive in." The planetary voice spoke again, more confused than before. Species evaluation incomplete. Subjects: demonstrate resistance to energy drain, physical destruction, psychic manipulation, and environmental hazards. Testing protocols require adjustment. Jake watched as new creatures began emerging from the crystal formations. These were different from the others. Instead of being designed to exploit specific weaknesses, they seemed to be copying human behavior. One creature walked upright on two legs. Another used simple tools to manipulate objects. A third worked in a group with others of its kind. "It's trying to understand us by becoming us," Carter observed. "But it's missing something fundamental." The planet seemed to hear her words. Explained fundamental element. Species database contains 17 advanced civilizations. Humans exhibit traits not present in previous subjects. Martinez had been thinking about the problem from an engineering perspective. The other species or specialists, the Zelethi, were pure energy beings. The Crouton were warriors. The Mentari were psychics. But humans are generalists. We're not the best at anything, but we're decent at everything. The creatures around them began to shift and change, trying to become generalists like the humans. But their attempts were crude and inefficient. A creature that tried to use both energy attacks and physical force ended up doing both poorly. Another that attempted to combine different abilities created only chaos. Adaptation protocols failing, the planetary voice announced. Human versatility exceeds testing parameters. System requires recalibration. That's when Jake realized the true scope of what they were dealing with. "How long have you been testing species?" Testing commenced 4.7 million years ago. Total subjects evaluated: 1,437 species. Successful completions: 0. Williams lowered her weapon: 0. In over 4 million years, no species has passed your test? Correct. Testing facility approaching. Operational limit. If no species demonstrates worthiness within the next evaluation period, system will initiate shutdown protocol. Carter felt a chill that had nothing to do with the planet's shifting temperatures. What happens if you shut down? All accumulated knowledge and technology will be returned to the galactic core. Advanced civilizations will remain isolated. Species will be confined to their original evolutionary limitations. Jake understood the implications immediately. The quantum crystals, the advanced technology, the secrets of faster-than-light travel, everything humanity needed to expand beyond their home system would be lost forever. But more than that, thousands of other species would lose their chance to advance as well. "How much time do we have?" he asked. Current evaluation period expires in 47 standard days. Martinez was studying the crystal network's architecture. "Captain, I think I understand what's happening. This system was designed to find a species that could inherit advanced technology. But the test itself is flawed." "Explain," Jake said. "It's testing for perfection in specific areas. But perfection means specialization, and specialization means limitations. The test eliminates any species that isn't perfectly adapted to overcome its challenges. A planetary intelligence seemed to process this concept slowly. Testing parameters established by the creators cannot be altered without creator authorization." "Who were the creators?" Carter asked. "The first civilization. They transcended physical existence 4.7 million years ago. Before transcendence, they established this facility to identify worthy successors." Williams was thinking like a tactician, but they made a mistake. They designed the test based on their own limitations, not on the possibility that a truly adaptable species might evolve. The planet's response came after a long pause. Possibility not calculated in original parameters. Human behavioral patterns suggest alternative evaluation method required. Jake made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Then let us help you fix the test. Clarification required. The test isn't working because it's looking for the wrong things. Instead of testing for specialized strength, test for adaptability. Instead of looking for perfection, look for the ability to improve. Martinez was already working on the crystal network, using his engineering skills to understand the underlying systems. I can see the testing protocols in the data stream. They're incredibly complex, but they're also rigid. There's no room for the unexpected. Carter was examining the creatures that surrounded them. These beings were created to represent specific challenges, but they're all artificial constructs. They don't think like real living creatures. Real living creatures are unpredictable, the planetary voice observed. Unpredictability introduces variables that cannot be controlled. Exactly, Jake said. That's what makes life worth preserving. The ability to surprise yourself, to become more than what you were designed to be. The ground beneath them began to shift again, but this time it felt different. Instead of trying to create specific challenges, the planet seemed to be experimenting with new possibilities. Creatures appeared that had never existed before, combining elements in ways that created entirely new forms of life. Davis was monitoring their shuttle when he noticed something remarkable. Captain, the atmospheric readings are stabilizing, but not to match our needs. They're becoming more diverse, creating pockets where different types of life could survive. System adaptation in progress, the planetary voice announced. New testing protocols under development. Human input required. For calibration. Williams realized what was happening. It's not just fixing the test. It's becoming something new. Something that can grow and change, instead of just following ancient programming. Martinez had gained access to deeper levels of the crystal network. The technology here isn't just advanced, it's adaptive. These crystals can learn and evolve, just like living beings. But they were locked into rigid patterns by their original programming. Carter was watching the creatures around them with wonder. They're not just following instructions anymore. They're thinking for themselves, making decisions based on curiosity rather than predetermined responses. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Humanity had stumbled onto something far more important than quantum crystals or faster-than-light travel. They had found a planetary intelligence that had been trapped in an endless cycle of failed tests, waiting millions of years for someone to show it a different way to think. Will you help us redesign the evaluation system? The planetary voice asked. Will you teach us to test for adaptability instead of specialization? Jake looked at his team. They had come to catalog a dangerous world and collect resources. Instead, they had become teachers to a student older than their entire species. The success or failure of thousands of civilizations might depend on their answer. Yes, he said simply. We'll help you learn to see the universe the way humans do, full of possibilities instead of limitations. The planet pulsed with energy as ancient systems began to change for the first time in millions of years. Around them, impossible creatures started to show signs of genuine curiosity and creativity. The test was becoming something entirely new, but they had only 47 days to complete the transformation before the system shut down forever. Their final message was clear. The test is complete. Humanity has proven worthy, not by demonstrating perfection, but by showing others how to improve. The galaxy awaits your guidance. As the creator entities disappeared, the planet settled into its new configuration. Where once there had been chaotic storms and hostile creatures, now there were learning environments designed to challenge different types of beings in safe, educational ways. The quantum crystals had grown into a network that could facilitate communication and cooperation between species across vast distances. Jake activated his communicator to contact Admiral Brooks. Discovery to command. Mission successful. We've secured the quantum crystals and much more. Zarian 7 is now humanity's first diplomatic and educational outpost in the Outer Rim. Brooks' voice crackled through the communication system. Understood. Discovery. What's your status on the Deathworld classification? Yay. 43 days later, Captain Jake Morrison stood in what had once been a crystal formation and was now something like a control room. The quantum crystals had grown and changed, creating organic-looking interfaces that responded to touch and thought. Around him, his team worked alongside creatures that no longer tried to kill them, but instead asked questions about everything. Dr. Lisa Carter was deep in conversation with a being that had once been pure energy, but now took different forms every few minutes. The key is variation, she explained to the creature. Life isn't about finding the perfect form. It's about being able to change when your environment changes. The energy being flickered between shapes, experimenting with different possibilities. But change introduces uncertainty. Uncertainty leads to failure. Sometimes, Carter agreed, but it also leads to discovery. The failures teach you what doesn't work, so you can find what does. Chief Engineer Bobby Martinez had spent weeks working with the planet's systems, teaching them to be flexible instead of rigid. The crystal network now functioned more like a living brain than a computer, capable of learning from experience and developing new solutions to unexpected problems. The original creators were brilliant, Martinez told the planetary intelligence, but they thought like engineers. They wanted everything to work perfectly the first time. Humans know that the first attempt usually fails, so we build systems that can handle failure and learn from it. Commander Kate Williams was training the planet's defensive systems to think like strategists instead of following predetermined attack patterns. The creatures that had once mindlessly assaulted intruders now worked together to solve complex problems. Combat isn't about having the biggest weapon, she explained to a group of mechanical defenders. It's about adapting faster than your opponent. If they expect you to attack from the left, you attack from the right. If they prepare for energy weapons, you use physical force. Lieutenant Ryan Davis had been working with the planet's atmospheric control systems, teaching them to create stable flight conditions instead of chaotic storms. The skies above Zarian 7 now showed patches of calm air alongside areas of controlled turbulence that could be navigated by skilled pilots. The weather doesn't have to be perfect, Davis told the atmospheric processors. It just has to be predictable enough that people can adapt to it. Storms aren't evil. They're just another challenge to overcome. The planetary intelligence had been learning from all of them, but the most important lesson came from watching how the humans worked together. Each person had different skills, but they combined their abilities to solve problems that none of them could handle alone. This is the quality we were not programmed to recognize, the planet announced during one of their daily briefings. Individual specialization combined with group cooperation. The humans are not superior to previous species in any single area, but their ability to work together multiplies their individual capabilities. Jake nodded. That's what makes us human. We're not the strongest or the smartest species in the galaxy, but we refuse to give up, and we help each other when things get hard. The transformation of Zarian 7 had been remarkable to watch. What had once been a chaotic Deathworld was now a living laboratory where impossible things became possible through cooperation and creativity. The creatures that had been designed to kill specific types of aliens now worked together to solve puzzles and explore new ideas. But time was running out. In 4 days, the ancient shutdown protocol would activate unless the planet could demonstrate that it had found a worthy species. The problem was that the evaluation criteria were still locked in the original programming, looking for perfection that no species could achieve. We need to change the fundamental test parameters, Martinez said during their final planning session. But the core programming won't accept modifications without creator authorization. Carter had been studying the historical records stored in the crystal network. The creators didn't just disappear. They transcended physical existence. Maybe they're still out there, in some form we can't normally detect. Williams was examining the defensive systems when she noticed something unusual. The planet's been trying to contact something for the past week. Long-range transmissions into deep space, using frequencies that don't match any known communication methods. Davis checked the atmospheric readings, and the upper atmosphere has been fluctuating in patterns that look almost like language. Maybe the planet has been trying to reach the creators all along. Jake felt pieces of a puzzle clicking together in his mind. What if the real test isn't about overcoming challenges? What if it's about teaching the testing system itself to grow and change? The planetary intelligence seemed to consider this possibility. Clarification. You suggest that successful species must demonstrate ability to improve existing systems rather than merely survive them. Exactly. The creators probably expected that any worthy species would look at a flawed test and find ways to make it better. They didn't want perfect beings. They wanted teachers. As if responding to his words, the crystal network began to pulse. With new energy, deep space communications that had been sent weeks ago were finally receiving responses. But the replies weren't coming from distant stars. They were coming from dimensions that existed alongside normal space, but remained normally. Invisible. Contact established with creator remnants, the planetary voice announced, but now it sounded different. More alive, more curious. Authorization requested for fundamental protocol modification. The air around them began to shimmer as beings of pure thought and energy manifested in their reality. The creators hadn't died or disappeared. They had evolved beyond physical form, becoming something like living ideas that existed in the spaces between thoughts. One of the creator entities communicated directly with Jake's mind, but the communication felt like a conversation rather than an invasion. You have done something we did not anticipate. You have taught our creation to question its own assumptions. Jake found himself able to respond in the same manner. Your test was perfect for finding specialists. But the universe needs generalists too. Species that can adapt to anything, work with anyone, and never stop trying to improve. We designed the evaluation system based on our own limitations, another creator acknowledged. We were a species of perfectionists, seeking to find others like ourselves. We did not consider that worthiness might take different forms. Carter stepped forward, somehow able to join the mental conversation. The test worked exactly as you designed it. It eliminated species that couldn't adapt to unexpected challenges. But it also eliminated species that were too specialized to handle multiple problems at once. The humans have shown us a third path, the planetary intelligence added. Cooperative adaptation. Individual growth combined with group problem-solving. They have transformed our testing protocols into teaching protocols. Martinez had been monitoring the crystal network during the contact with the creators. The entire system is evolving in real time. It's not just testing species anymore. It's learning from them and helping them learn from each other. Williams understood the implications immediately. You're creating a network that connects different species across the galaxy, not just to evaluate them, but to help them share knowledge and solve problems together. The creator entities seemed pleased by this development. This exceeds our original vision. You have created something better than what we imagined. Authorization granted for unlimited protocol modification. Davis felt the change immediately as the atmospheric systems around them shifted into new configurations. The planet's not a testing ground anymore. It's becoming a meeting place. A school where different species can learn from each other. Jake looked around at his team, at the creatures that had become their partners, at the shimmering forms of the ancient creators. So what happens now? Now, the planetary intelligence said, we begin the real work. The galaxy is full of species that have been isolated by their own limitations. Some are too proud to ask for help. Others are too afraid to take risks. Many have never imagined that cooperation with other species is possible. We become teachers, Carter realized. We help other species learn what we've learned here. That diversity is strength, that failure is just another word for learning, and that no problem is too big if enough different minds work on it together. The creators began to fade back into their dimensional existence. But